night may be long and the dark may be deep, but the answers are there to be found. Whether it's the normal, the abnormal, or the paranormal, you're in the right place. Let's go beyond reality.
It's Thursday on the West, Friday on the East. Many of you are stuck somewhere in between. Welcome to Beyond Reality Radio with me, Jason Hawes, and the always awesome J.V. Johnson.
It's going to take a little bit to get used to you wearing that knit cap on your head right now.
Man, well, you know what? I don't have any hair on my head.
No, I know that.
So it's like the only insulation I have.
Yeah, but you're indoors.
I don't care. It's funny because even the wife was making fun of me earlier. She's like, why have you been wearing the hat in the house all day long? I said, I don't know. The top of my head is just cold for some reason.
She's got a good reason to make fun of you there.
I mean, yeah, most of the U.S., I think hell has frozen over.
Yeah, it certainly seems to have gotten that bad. I mean, some of these temperatures I'm seeing from around the country, especially in the Midwest, just unbelievable. It's, it's record-setting cold. That's really what it is.
And sadly, 9 people so far, according to the news, have lost their lives due to this polar vortex. So again, like we've said prior, just please be careful and pay attention and check on those who definitely could use some assistance. I just feel incredibly bad also for the homeless. I mean, I have seen a lot of people out there really helping. One guy actually went and rented out almost a whole hotel to give rooms to the homeless, and just seeing people with hearts like that, it's incredible. It's amazing.
It is. Take care of your neighbors, your friends, your family, anybody that needs help in these very, very difficult times. But the good news is, I suppose, is that it looks like it's going to turn around pretty quickly here and warm up quite a bit. I mean, it's going to be like a 70 or 80 degree temperature swing over the next few days.
I know. They're calling for like 55 in Rhode Island on Monday, and that's insane. But then again, the other day it was 36, and then 3 hours later we were at 4.
Yeah. What do you consider to be a ripe old age?
Ripe old age?
Yeah.
45. No, I'm just kidding. That's my age now. I don't know. I mean, ripe old age. See, I got a grandfather who's 95. Mm-hmm. I got a mother who's 72. Mm-hmm. So it's and they're still trucking right along. So I
remember my grandfather used to always tell me he wanted to live to be 100, and then that was enough. I mean, that's pretty significant. He actually didn't make it. But scientists have just decided, I don't know how scientific this is because it's more of a survey than it is any real scientific experiment, but they've decided that they've figured out what the cap of the human life is. In other words, regardless of what medical breakthroughs we have or what type of things you do lifestyle-wise, you're not going to be able to live past the ripe old age of 115 years old.
Really? Okay. And but are they figuring in technology and everything else? Because
I don't think they're figuring in like downloading your personality to a computer kind of thing.
I don't even think I'm talking about that. There's technology where now with 3D printing, I mean, they're printing different body parts, different organs. And of course, as long as you can maintain something to keep the brain alive, then you're still alive.
Right.
And so, where do we come to a point where they're just, well, all right, replace his kidneys, replace his heart, replace the liver, do this, do that. As long as you're keeping pretty much from the neck up going, you're still there.
Right. But at the same time, we all know with old age, the brain deteriorates as well, even though it is being fed nutrients and oxygen and things it needs. But it deteriorates too. It's one of the, those cells deteriorate just like all the other ones. So I don't know where they came up with this other than the fact that they did it based on looking at the maximum life expectancy of people around the world. Not life expectancy, I'm sorry, it's the wrong word. How they always say the oldest person alive is, and they give that. They looked at those statistics throughout the world and throughout history, and those numbers haven't budged. Average life expectancy has increased. We've gone from what was in the 40s at one point, now up into the 80s. But the top age, the age where you say, okay, the oldest person in the world is 114 years old, that number has barely budged, and that's where they came up with their conclusion.
Well, it's even scary when you look at it where these other countries, their age expectancy is going up. And the U.S., we've been sitting at a certain number for a while, and we're tending to drop a little here and there.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, when that was discussed, there's something to do with actually heroin and some other substance abuse issues that have these narcotics, prescription pain medications that people become addicted to have really affected life expectancy in the United States.
Well, and I also think the quality of the food we have here, the preservatives that go into them, a lot of them aren't. I mean, over here,
I think that makes you live longer, frankly.
Well,
you get a few preservatives through your body, keeps things fresh.
I mean, but no, I know that there's the whole thing. Like when you go overseas, even chocolate and stuff over there it's more expensive and it's different because they can't use the wax fillers and things of that nature that they use here in the U.S., just like soda and stuff like that. So they definitely think a little better. When I was over filming with Jack Osborne, one of the big headlines in the newspaper was the UK may have to accept the United States inferior milk products because they were running low on stuff. So,
I've had milk in Europe, and I'm not going to tell you that I think it's superior to our milk. In fact, I think it's disgusting. I don't know what they do to their milk over there, but you don't have to refrigerate it generally, and it's just it's kind of an odd
and there's a lot of weird things. I had a Guinness in Ireland, and I paid the price for 4 days after. So it was just because they don't do the pasteurization that we do here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where you're dying. You're like, what is wrong with me? But
you know what? When you have another episode like that, you might want to talk to a Reiki healer or somebody who might be able to address energy vampires in your life. Like our guest tonight, Lisa Campion, is a psychic and an energy healer, and we're going to talk about energy vampires.
And those are a thing. There's been a lot of talk about them lately throughout the last few years. And I'm a firm believer in them because there's always those individuals who are around you, and JV, you know this, who pretty much you could be in a good mood and all of a sudden they're around you and you're in a bad mood, or you just feel just the negativity coming off the person is just draining all the time. And it just beats you up.
Some people can walk into a room and they literally suck the energy out of the room.
Why are you looking right at me?
Because it's the hat. It's still the hat.
It's the hat. Okay.
Yeah, that's no, but seriously, people can walk into a room and suck the energy out of a room. I don't know if it's because they are doing it intentionally. I don't know if it's a personality thing. I don't know if they're in need of energy from other sources. I don't know, but I think Lisa is going to be able to talk about this and give us some of the explanations and some of the things we can do to defend ourselves against such people.
This hat I'm going to line on the inside with tinfoil, and it's going to keep those energy vampires from being able to suck anything from me.
Among other things, yes.
Yes, exactly. So, hey, if you haven't yet, head over to facebook.com/BeyondRealityRadio and like that Facebook page for us. Then head to BeyondRealityRadio.com where you can find all the stations we are on across the country, and that list is constantly being updated with new stations being added all the time. You can also download the smartphone apps for iPhone and Android, which allow you to listen live, catch past shows, join the online chat, and more, and that's all free. Or any night we're live, just click the Listen Live or the Listen Live and Chat button right there on the website and listen to the show while on the website. If you download the show from iTunes or anywhere else, just take 2 seconds of your time and rate it for us because it really helps us out, and we'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, we certainly do. Okay, so why don't we take a break and get our guest on the line so we can start talking about this topic. Again, we are going to be talking about energy vampires with Lisa Campion tonight.
And we want to also hear from you all. So, and the phone lines will be open a little later. But have you ever dealt with some sort of an energy vampire? Somebody who walks in and just drains the energy from you or anybody else around. And how do you think they do it? How does it make you feel when it happens? So, and the phone number, again, is 844-687-7669. Again, toll free at 844-687-7669. You listen to Jason and JV, Beyond Reality Radio. We'll be back after this.
Did you know that online retailers like Amazon have constant deals that can save you money on the things you buy every day? It's no joke. Save 40%, 50%, even 80% on great products, and all you have to do is know about them. Noodle Shark is the way to be alerted when something good is coming your way. Noodle Shark is the social media page that lists great deals that not only save you money, but give you the deals before anyone else has them. All you have to do is find Noodle Shark on Facebook. Search it as The Noodle Shark. That's The Noodle Shark, because you deserve to save too. Become Become a shark and save. Welcome back to the program. It's Beyond Reality Radio, Jason and JV. Tonight we're going to be talking about energy vampires. You know, the people that kind of suck your life force out of you. You can't even explain it. You know, there are some relationships, whether especially if it's somebody that you're with every day, a boss, even a family member, a friend, and yet you just kind of lose your motivation, you lose your ambition, you lose these things, and you're not really sure why.
And we're not just talking about just people who just thrive on negativity. We're talking about people who just, when they're around, you're just dragged down. And so I think that's mainly what we're trying to cover.
Yeah, and our guest tonight, Lisa Campion, is a psychic and energy healer. Her website is Lisa Campion. It's like champion without the H. LisaCampion.com. She's got a book out called The Art of Psychic Reiki. Lisa, welcome to Beyond Reality Radio. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, thanks for coming on.
So we kind of stumbled our way through a definition here of what an energy vampire is. Why don't you tell us what an energy vampire is?
Oh, I think you said it really well in your introduction, you know, that we just sometimes encounter people that really just sort of like suck the life out of us. And I would say that most of the people that are doing it have no idea that they're doing it. And then there's a few kinds of people that really do it on purpose. They're very sort of dangerous, predatory, you know, sort of psychopathic people that really actually do it on purpose and thrive on that kind of behavior and take energy from people. And I mean, you know, as a psychic and an energy healer, I think that mostly we don't have any idea. We're very unconscious of how we impact other people. And maybe we all can have a bad day where we're tired or drained, and we might be, you know, we might be somebody that's taking other people's energy, so we sort of have to watch out for that too.
Well, and you said it right. There are people out there. Most people don't realize that they're actually doing this, but there are people out there who are aware of what they're doing, and you know, they try to specialize in it. But there's also groups of people that get together that's main purpose is to do this as well.
I know, that was so interesting to me because I'm writing my next book. It's called The Energy Vampire Cure, and as I was doing research for that, I stumbled upon these communities of people who sort of they self-identify as vampires. And some of them are blood drinkers. Some of them say that they, you know, just take people's energy, not their blood. And, you know, I spoke to one of them actually, did a little bit of research for my book, and it was a really interesting sort of lifestyle that they just feel like they can't exist, you know, on food and water and air like we do. They have to take people's blood or people's energy. I think that's a very small percentage of people.
But there are there are those out there, and I actually met some individuals when I was in New Orleans. I was down there, and there's a bunch of different types of people that believe they're different types of vampires, like you were saying. But there's actually some that are notorious that refer to themselves as energy vampires, and they'll notoriously, as a group, head into some of the bars down there in the French Quarter, and you know, spend time in the bars with each other, and believing that they're drawing energy from all those people in there.
Yeah, I know. It's such an interesting kind of subculture of people, and it's hard to know what to think. Like I'm sort of, you know, anything between consenting adults, I guess. Like, you know, if that's really how you feel and nobody's getting hurt, I guess so. It's not really my cup of tea, and I'm more interested in teaching people how to protect themselves, how to manage their energy, how to spot an energy vampire, how to keep themselves full so we don't inadvertently become that way. I think it's kind of something that up until really recently we've been really unconscious about. It hasn't been part of our conversation, you know, in really in any way. And it is becoming part of our conversation now in more of a mainstream way, and I think that's an opportunity for all of us.
Lisa, does a person have the ability to morph into an energy vampire? Is that something you're born with?
You know, I think the super predatory kinds, the real psychopaths, sociopaths, severely narcissistic people, it is something that they may be born with. And lately there's been a lot of, you know, research and scientific research on why people become psychopaths. And they've done, brain analysis, brain dissection of people who are psychopaths, and they really find something is developmentally different, or some part of their brain develops in a different way, it seems to be they're born that way. And that, I think that's true for this. I think it's like 0.5% of the population. Thankfully, it's pretty small, who really we could sort of categorize in this personality disorder spectrum of people who are just extremely predatory, psychopathic people. Those are the really, really scary ones that we have to watch out for. The rest of the energy vampires that I think fall into the needy kind of energy vampire, that's maybe something that's like a habit we learn, or a way that we fall into, that I think can be reversed. It can be changed. And I think any one of us can come on hard times, like I call them situational energy vampires, that we're having somebody passed away, or we're dealing with a major health issue, or we're going through a divorce. There's some powerful trauma that we're dealing with in our lives that temporarily drains us from our energy, and then we kind of glom onto other people to try and get some of that back.
One of the, I guess, very important questions, Lisa, would be when that life force is being drawn out of you, other than feeling maybe blah or even depressed or lacking energy, what are the other effects on you as the person who's the victim of this?
It's so interesting because I'm a psychic and an energy healer, I can sometimes see this happen, and I notice that it often comes out of our solar plexus, so out of our belly. And I see people get stomach aches, have trouble digesting things. People will kind of cross their arms or their hands over their belly when this is happening. And fatigue, definitely, sometimes brain fog, depression, anxiety, headaches. If you spend some time with somebody and they really feel depressed and you want to go have a nap, and your belly hurts, that's a pretty good sign that your energy is getting drained. And I think it can be almost dangerous, and if it's in a very severe case and it's chronic, like a lot of, it's happening for a long period of time. I've seen people get very sick, really have problems with their health and have a hard time bouncing back if you're with somebody who's constantly doing that to you.
Well, and one of the most known side effects of this is definitely the headache issue, and it's you. And most of the times when I've ever heard anybody explaining it, it always seems to be like a pain in the back of the head that's radiating down the neck, and so that's the most common, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Headaches and stomach aches seem to be the big, and fatigue, and sometimes depression, like really feeling bad, really feeling weak, exhausted, and I think you're right. It's sort of in the back of the head, like at the base of your skull. There's also an entry point there, and I see that very frequently with people that have encountered sort of the spirit versions of energy vampires, because it's not always just people. Sometimes we run into this non-physical beings, spirit beings. They often attach right into the back of the neck.
We know this is not a physical phenomenon. In other words, one of these energy vampires doesn't have to be touching you to be drawing this force from you. Does that make it spiritual, or is it telepathic? What's the connection?
I think it's energetic. So we have this life force energy. And that's kind of why I see it this way, because I'm a Reiki practitioner and a Reiki teacher. So Reiki is sort of this universal life force. It's sort of the chi or the life force energy that we all have, and that's really what they're taking. They're taking our life force. Of course, they're also can be taking our time, our attention, our money, our resources. Like there's physical things, those kinds of things they can take too. But what they're actually draining out of us is our life force energy, and I think that's why we feel fatigue when it's happening.
So how do we spot one of these folks? I mean, other than, maybe experiencing the symptoms, but those symptoms could be, illness. It could be something else as well. So we're not entirely sure. How do we know when an energy vampire is affecting us?
The super predatory types are very hard to spot because they're very shapeshifty. They're like if you think about like a very practiced con man, or con woman, they kind of roll like that. So they can be charming, good looking. They can really play you. They can, almost if it's like with that kind of, it's too good to be true. And then you get to know them after a little while, and then all of a sudden they need money, or all of a sudden they're become very controlling. That's usually it's.
So
hard
you're defining my children, by the way. I just want to make sure you understand that, especially when it comes to they need money all of a sudden. Just want to be clear.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think so. So they're almost too hard to spot until it's too late. Oftentimes, I think our friends will have like a better, beat on that than we do, because the predatory type of energy vampires are very canny. They're very psychic. They have this like ability to find out what we need, what we're looking for, where our weak spot is, and shapeshift in a way to become that person, like a con artist, And the needy vamps, the needy ones who are super, like they're just tired. They have they're sick, or they can't quite function in their life without help. We notice them often because they're very negative. They can whine and complain a lot. They don't they're not often interested in actually solving their problems, so they often tell the same story over and over again. They're going to tell you about their terrible relationship or their horrible mother or something like, and it can be really a problem that they're having, but they're a bit addicted to the victim quality that brings them, and the victim like attention that gives them, and they're not invested in changing. So you might be on the phone with them for an hour and you're hearing the same story you've always heard, and they're not actually interested in changing or taking your advice or following through. That's a really good way to spot sort of the needy type of energy vampire.
So why are we hearing so much these days about energy vampires compared to, 10 years ago?
I've been asking myself that question too. I think it's like maybe a topic whose time is common. I also think that people are becoming more sensitive. So there's more talk about empaths, People are discovering that they're an empath or that they're sensitive, and that's really hitting the mainstream in a big way. And really there's kind of this dance between the empath and the energy vampire. So if the energy vampire is looking for food, they're often looking for an empath. For a highly sensitive person, I think empaths are really caring, gentle-hearted people. They're often drawn to working in the healing profession or helping other people, and they tend to have very weak boundaries. They have this sort of spongy kind of energy field. That's why we call them psychic sponges. So there's kind of a natural, tendency for these two to encounter each other. So as empaths are waking up to their capacity, their ability, their sensitivity, and going, oh my God, I'm an empath, almost the next thought you have is, and who are these people that are taking my energy all the time, and why is that happening to me?
So it's not that there's more energy vampires than there were 10 years ago? It's just more like you were just saying then?
Yeah, I don't think there's more. I think that this is something that's always been there. It's just somehow hitting our consciousness now as people are becoming more aware of. It's like okay to talk about being an empath, that nobody even knew what that word was 10 years ago. Or we're sensitive. It's okay to talk about being sensitive and psychic and being a healer, And those are the people that feel very often impacted by vampires, energy vampires.
Lisa, do energy vampires have to be human? Are energy vampires ever in the form of a non-human entity or a demonic entity, or can they even be in animals?
Yes, all of the above. So I'd see non-human energy vampires really frequently on my clients, and they're it's just common to find them, especially in people who are like addicts. I think that addicts, especially people that are addicted to very hard drugs, are very they're like entity magnets. They tend to have a lot of entities on them, and entities by nature, the ones that I've worked with, are parasitic. That they don't know how to get energy on their own, so they attach onto a human host like a parasite, and that's exactly what an energy vampire is. So I think it's frighteningly common Most of them are not demonic. I think truly demonic, thankfully, are pretty rare. I mean, they're definitely out there, but they're more rare in my experience. And I do think animals too. Animals kind of fall into two categories. They're like naturally energy giving and naturally energy taking, just like people.
Well, and a negative entity, a demonic, is just its nature is pretty much to be some sort of an energy vampire, right?
That's
because
right.
its main goal is
parasitic.
its main goal is to pretty much break you down in all aspects.
That's right.
So they would fall now, but there's different types of these energy vampires that you talk about, and I believe you listed there's 3 different types. Can you tell us what those are?
Yeah. So there's the predatory type. That would be this highly narcissistic, psychopathic kind of con artist type that that we've been talking about a little bit. I think that they're about 0.5% of the population. They're very dangerous people, and fortunately they're not so common, but we really have to watch out for them. Those are the ones that are so charming. We don't always see them coming, and they don't, the definition of a psychopath is that they don't have remorse, so they're remorseless. They'll take your energy, they'll take your money, they'll drain every resource out of you and sort of without remorse, let you go and find somebody else, to do the same thing to. Those are the ones that I think we really have to be careful about. Then there are the really needy type people, sort of victim people who I don't think they wake up in the morning and say, well, how can I suck the life out of you today? They're just so identified with being a victim and so needy in a way, like they feel empty on the inside and they're just kind of desperate for time, for attention, for whatever it is that you can give them. Mostly they want your attention and your time and your physical energy, like your chi, like we were talking about. And then they're much more common. That's most likely the kind that you're going to encounter. And then the last kind is the situational energy vampire, which is like maybe any of us going through a hard time when we're down on our luck might temporarily be so in such bad shape that we become that way until we kind of find our feet again.
Lisa, is a person who is an energy vampire, or maybe some people that are energy vampires, actually, is that a form of just a cry for help?
I think it is. I think it's, for some of them, I would say they don't know better. They don't know better. And as I've been having this discussion and talking about on the radio, I get contacted by people who tell me that, well, I think I'm an energy vampire and I don't really want to be. What do I do? How do I stop it? How do I reform myself? And it makes me happy. It makes me sort of feel hopeful that there are people that are like, oh my gosh, I don't actually want to be that way. How can I improve myself? And my advice to them is really to become more empathic, to think about what they're going to do and say affects other people, to try and find different ways to get their energy needs met other than draining other people. And, there are a bunch of people that really want to get better and reform, which I think is quite hopeful.
So here's a weird question. Let's say you're in a relationship and you're in a relationship with somebody who you think may be an energy vampire, but you feel as though you want to give them part of your energy and your life force. Is that a common situation, and is that love?
Well, I think we call it codependency, and I don't know if it's certainly a lot of people experience that. Is it the healthiest dynamic? I think everyone, like I said, consenting adults, I feel like fundamentally it's ideally we want love to be more 50-50. Like sometimes you might be needing something and your partner gives to you, and other times it's the other way around.
Right, it can ebb and flow, right?
It can ebb and flow, and that's sort of the natural way. And over time, if it evens out to 50-50-ish, that's great. That's sort of a healthy relationship, With somebody who's always needy and somebody who's always giving, like you can look up codependent relationships, and that's like textbook. And any therapist will tell you that's not really a healthy dynamic.
Talking about energy vampires. Her book is called The Art of Psychic Reiki, and her website is her name, lisacampion.com. Lisa, this is a short segment, but I wanted to take a minute here to talk about the things that are on your website. You've got a lot of information there, plus a lot of services and a list of classes and instruction. So tell us a little bit about what people can find on your website.
Well, I love to train empaths, psychics, and healers. I sort of feel like they're my people. So helping them learn and develop the skills and tools that they have so that they can step into the world and be fully powered up is really what I love to do the most. So I have a lot of free resources, video classes, articles, all kinds of things right now. I like to share my resources, so I got a bunch of free stuff there. And then I also have classes. I teach Reiki, I teach psychic development. That's what I like to do. And I do private sessions.
And you do sessions for people that you would consider clients, and then you also offer instruction for people who feel that they have some of these sensitivities and want to develop them, or somebody,
right.
Or is it also for people who might not know if they have a sensitivity and want to find out?
Yeah, that too. And I think right now I notice a huge increase in people's sensitivity. So, when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s and growing up right outside of Boston, the level of psychic gifts that I have were sort of rare. And now I see so many people, so many young people, teens, kids, and waking up. Their psychics are waking up. They're having experiences, their sensitivity is increasing, and then I think we do a lot of things these days too. We do yoga, we do meditation, we learn Reiki, and all of these things can also sort of pop us open. If we have latent psychic ability or sensitivities, so much of what we do activates that. And so I love to work with people that are wondering if they are, or they're finding they're really opening and they're not sure what to do about it. That's where I like to work.
Well, and does everybody have the ability to do this? Because there are those people out there they're closed off like a brick.
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, I think it's sort of a natural talent, and I feel like a lot of times it's, fits our personality or fits with our life purpose, like what we're meant to do in the world, and not everybody is, that's not what they're for. And I also think especially intuition is something that everyone has and can be developed if we pay attention to it and develop it.
So everybody has the ability to be psychic or sensitive?
I think especially intuitive. Like, intuition is sort of our inner knowing. It's sort of our instinctual self, It's very connected to how we feel in our body, what's happening with our emotions, and sort of our gut knowing, like, I don't know why I know, we just know, like that kind of feeling. I think everyone has that. I don't think everyone pays attention to it. So a lot of people who are very intellectual or very analytical can bypass that information and really live in their mind, and this is living more with the instinctual or intuitive self. I think that's something that every person has.
Okay, so there is hope for JV is what I'm asking.
I don't think so.
Definitely. If JV wanted to open the side of him, and he'd have to work on it a little bit, but I'm sure he could.
A little bit.
When you said brick, you were definitely talking about me. And
or you should have said cinder block.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm not sure I want to have those, that information coming in through any sensitivities. I think I want to avoid it. I've got too much going on as it is.
All right. So our guest, Lisa Campion, psychic and energy healer. We're discussing energy vampires. We're going to be opening up the phone lines next hour at 844-687-7669. Again, 844-687-7669. You're listening to Jason and JV Beyond Reality Radio. We'll be back after this.
Please support the program. Go to patreon.com/Johhaw. That's JOHAW. All right, so when you nestle down in the sofa and you're going to watch yourself a movie on Netflix or whatever, what do you like on your popcorn?
What do I like? I like that cheddar cheese stuff you put on it.
Actually, that sounds really good.
Yeah. I always buy it when I go to the movies, the cinemas too.
Yeah, cheese popcorn. Yeah,
it's just cheese topping.
Are you talking about? Is it like a powder sprinkle or is it like a cheese sauce?
No, just a powder sprinkle. I couldn't do cheese sauce; it would kill me.
That'd be weird.
Just a powder sprinkle.
But you know what people are using? First of all, I do salt and butter. I mean, and I've actually gotten to a habit where I air pop some popcorn almost every night after the show and throw some butter and salt on it.
I did too until I realized how many calories it was.
I know. But people have been highly recommending, and it seems to be trending, to put soy sauce on your popcorn.
Soy sauce?
They said
like sushi type soy sauce?
Yeah, like, like Chinese restaurant soy sauce. They say
Low
that
sodium.
yeah, they say it turns out you should be drizzling it with soy sauce. It sounds weird, but it adds a savory flavor that pairs perfectly with popcorn. They say prepare popcorn, whether you do microwave or however you make it. You can also put a little wasabi in. I wouldn't do that, but they say garlic salt's good.
I always bet my kids with wasabi too. Every time we go out for sushi, I make a bowl, and I'm like, if you can eat this, here's $5.
No thanks. Brown sugar is another possibility, or Parmesan cheese. And then
brown sugar.
And pour that over your popcorn. And then, a little soy sauce. And supposedly it's a very tasty treat.
I can't imagine the sodium intake.
Yeah, you always ruin it. Calories, sodium.
I mean, man, it's, I don't know.
I just had my night planned out, and you just ruined it for me.
If your night was a night full of soy sauce, I mean, you might want to see a doctor.
Well, it sounded good until you took us down that path.
Just don't think of the
calories and the sodium that you brought up.
Yeah. Who needs arteries?
Yeah, a good point. Our guest tonight is Lisa Campion. Before we bring her back into the show here, a couple things coming up that you should know about. Monday night, tomorrow night, of course, will be a best of program. Monday night, Tim Schwartz will be with us. He's an author. And we'll be talking about ghosts, poltergeists, elementals, Geff, the talking mongoose, who has apparently
still so lost with that.
Yeah, baffled researchers for years, and much more. That'll be Monday night's program.
And then Tuesday, we'll be talking to John Potash, author and documentarian. We'll be talking about his newly released film, Drugs as Weapons Against Us, the CIA's war on musicians and activists. We had John on in the past, and let me tell you, initially when we were getting ready to have him on, Jim, we were like, what is this going to be about?
Yeah.
But by the end of the show, we were just locked in. I mean, it was an incredible show.
Yeah, it was a great discussion.
Crazy the amount of stuff that he'll be able to talk on, and then also the second hour we'll have Rhonda and Dwight Hull, paranormal researchers, psychic mediums. We'll be discussing their new book, Conversations with Spirits of the Southwest, a continued journey into the paranormal. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be some great shows.
Yeah, great stuff coming up. Again, tonight we're talking with Lisa Campion. By the way, we do have some people waiting on hold to chat with our guest tonight. So thank you for being patient. We will get to your calls. If you're trying to get through, the number's 844-687-7669. So, Lisa, first of all, I have to ask you this, because I don't know where you're located. Are you in the freeze zone, or are you in someplace a little warmer?
Well, I'm in New England.
Oh, you're in the freeze zone. Yeah.
We're slightly frozen. We're not as frozen as the deep freeze in the Midwest.
Well, I'm in Rhode Island, and it's pretty darn cold here.
Yeah, so we're neighbors.
Oh, so yeah.
All right, let's see here. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's take a listener call to start out this hour. This is Ethan in Florida. Hey, Ethan, welcome to the program.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good. Welcome to the show, Ethan.
Hey, how you doing? All right, so I have this suspicion that I dated actually one of these energy vampires, so-called. And one thing that I noticed, just myself, is like poor social skills, like always needing something, always has a sob story for everything. And I was just wondering, like, is that typical? Like, what are the signs that you're dating, like, a so-called energy vampire?
Well, it sounds like you got one of the needy ones. A really predatory one would have excellent social skills in a scary kind of way. But if you have somebody that's really needy, that never has money, that always has a problem, that has a lot of anxiety, you've got somebody that's probably pulling on your energy pretty hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I'm relatively young. I'm 22, like, for the record. But I took on $1,500 worth of credit card debt, like, dating this person, because like they always needed, like, I had to basically sustain them, for an extended period of time. But I don't know. There were, kind of like you were saying, like, they have excellent social skills, like, to a point, I guess. And then after that, after they reach, like, their limit, I guess, it's like, I don't know, they just kind of hit a wall, and it's like, it just becomes awkward, I guess. Like, is that typical?
Yeah, that's really typical, and especially because they don't really often have a lot of empathy. So this might be a person that isn't going to tune into how you feel about things. Like, they're just going to, like, kind of use you up, and not really consider how their behavior is making you feel.
Well, now let me ask you this. Were you dealing with any of the so-called side effects, headaches, or anything when you were dealing with this person?
Yeah, definitely. I actually thought I had black mold poisoning. I went to my doctor actually for like chronic migraines, things like that. But I was definitely having a lot of that.
Well, when you say chronic migraine, but were they the ones located in the lower back part of the head, or were they everywhere, or what?
No, yeah, for sure. It was the back of the head. It was it was radiating like throughout the body, things like that.
Okay. Oh, geez. Well, thanks for the call.
Yeah, Ethan, how long did you stay in that relationship, or are you still in it?
Well, it was very on and off for about, I would say 8 months. But I met this person. They were very charismatic. They were very sensual, I guess you could say. But, other than that, there was, I don't know, I was just noticing a lot of the signs that was being described tonight.
Well, now let me ask one more question, not to be personal. Did you break it off, or did it come to a point where you were unable to assist them any further, so they just sort of disappeared out of your life?
Well, honestly, I was unable to assist them anymore. But, when you're in a relationship with a person and, I don't know, I'm a very outgoing person, I guess you could say, where it's I guess if I'm able to help a person, I feel like I should, one of those type of deals.
Totally.
But I guess that makes me susceptible to this sort of situation. Yeah, but it was that sort of for an extended period of time, and then when I noticed that I couldn't help anymore, I was like, hey, I'm tapped out. I cannot do this anymore. I'm just gonna have to break it off because you're needing things that I can't provide, and I feel, I don't know, I guess kind of shitty. So whoops, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you're a really kind, sensitive person. That's the type they usually go for. So I commend your sensitivity, but it's good that you got out when you did, and it'd be good for you to do some things to recover your energy.
And that's one of those things where they always say, the good people get taken advantage of, the people who are willing to give it, and you always got to be careful. But thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So let's then change the line of conversation to how you can protect yourself, I guess, or if you're in a relationship like that and you recognize it's happening, how do you get out of it, or can you change the person? What's the best path to take?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. And the really predatory types, often you can't change them and you just need to get away. And you can tell when they're not interested in getting help, or you might be like, hey, this isn't working out. Do you want to maybe do couples therapy? And they're like, no, you're the problem. If somebody's telling you, you're the problem and there's nothing wrong with them, that's a good sign that you're dealing with a predatory type person. You just need to really get away from them. The needy types require boundary setting, and sometimes we can't get away from people. Like maybe it's your boss or your spouse or a relative or somebody you really can't get away with you can't get away from. And so then we need to set boundaries, and that's just figuring out how to say no. Where can you do what you can do, and when do you have to draw a line and say, I can't do that? That's a no for me.
So, again, protecting yourself. I guess maybe, this is a good case where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Should we be looking for these people before we get involved with them?
If you can. Honestly, I think your friends are really good. I notice people's friends will tell you, if your friends are saying that person's trouble, we don't really like them, that's not a good idea, they often have a better radar for it than you do if you're in the middle of it. So that, watch what your friends are saying about somebody. And I think look into their past a little bit. Do they have, a string of, bodies behind them of people they've used up and thrown away? That's a big red flag. Do they not have a lot of close personal relationships? So knowing somebody's history can sometimes tip you off on that. And I wish it was such a case where we could sort of, throw garlic and holy water at them and make them go away like a vampire. Like a movie vampire, but really we can't. We have to deal with people. We have to deal with them as people, and that means sometimes just figuring out where our boundary is and how we say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go into debt for you. I'm not going to, spend that hour on the phone with you. And a lot of times when we hold a firm boundary and we stop feeding them our energy, they wander off and find somebody else who will.
Yeah, but it's also tough because a situation where if you're truly in love with the person and you're willing to do whatever you can to help that person out.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Or sometimes it's tough because it's somebody you can't get away from. It's like your parent or, like a relative or somebody, and that's when it requires, like, how much am I going to, really thinking, how much am I going to give into this relationship and where do I need to say no?
She had a book out. It's called The Art of Psychic Reiki, and we've got a kind of a short segment here, and I want to jump to the phone lines, take another listener call, Lisa. This is Victoria from Wisconsin. Hi, Victoria.
Hey, guys. Long time no talk.
Hey, are you surviving up there with the temperatures?
Yes. It is about -11, not counting the wind chill. But, yeah, we're surviving.
Ouch.
You
Well,
guys?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's summer for us compared to what it is with you right now. So, yeah.
So you're on.
Wow, yeah.
You're on with Lisa. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, Lisa.
Hi, honey. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good.
I guess my main questions, there's so many I have. Just knowing, what you're talking about a lot, being an empath myself and being very intuitive. I guess my main question for you would be, how do you deal with the after effects of being drained from all these energies, specifically the negative ones?
Thank you so much for asking that. I think we all, especially as sensitive people, have to develop like a daily sort of self-care routine where we learn how to fill our energy back up. So I would say, think about what puts gas back in your tank. Maybe it's being out in nature. That's something that's really good for us sensitives, or being alone. Maybe you need a nap. I like to get in a bathtub with a lot of salt in the water, like a salt, sea salt. I find that to be very filling and clearing when my energy's like stressed from being around somebody that's really draining. We need to like eat properly, and prayer, meditation, yoga, Reiki, all these, like any kind of spiritual practice. So I think it's kind of, and also play, fun, creativity, hanging out with our friends. There's all the activities. You could make a list of everything that puts energy back in your system, and do some of that stuff every day.
That sounds a lot like a lot of things I try to do or, think of doing. I just don't get to all of them, unfortunately. But definitely a lot of the things I do try to do for sure. And, like one of the main things I would say is like, if I'm around people, like I just pick up on people's emotions so easily, and even animals. And sometimes I just don't know, like, if I'm right or not. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. Like, am I just making this up in my head? And they look at me like, like I am crazy. And I feel like I know what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, but it's just sometimes it's hard to come across people of like, what I'm trying to portray as trying to help them. But I totally get everything you're saying
really
about
common.
how to,
it's really normal for people who are empaths to think they're crazy. And I would say when you're around a lot of people, you want to make sure you have your bubble on. Like make your energy bubble really strong, that sort of light that surrounds you. And you're inside, and other people are on the other side, and no one can get in without your permission. That's really good. And I would say you need to learn to trust yourself, that if you're feeling something, chances are very good you're right. And if you're not sure, you can ask them, like, are you really sad? Do you have a pain in your back? Ask them until you get confident in your ability.
Victoria, thank you for the phone call. We're just out of time. We're going to have to go to break here, but we appreciate you calling in. We've got about 30 seconds, and I wanted to mention, Lisa, you've been doing this for some time, like 20 years or so, right?
Yeah, long time. Yep.
What got you started?
I started working when I was 19, and I don't know why. You just do stuff when you're 19 that you think you can do. And I was pretty psychic as a child and did a lot of training back in the day, and I really wanted to help people. And
do you feel like you have?
I do. I do feel like I have. And people like our last caller, that goes right to my heart of like those are the kind of people that I like to help. And I don't want people like that to think they're crazy. I want them to know they're supported and that they're for something. They're meant to be healers and use their gifts to help other people. Don't forget, tomorrow night is a best of program on Beyond Reality Radio. Monday, Tim Schwartz will join us. He's an author, and we'll be talking about ghosts, poltergeists, elementals, and Geff
the talking mongoose who has baffled scientists for years.
And is baffling JV and Jason right now, too.
Right now, I'm very baffled.
Then Tuesday night, our first guest will be John Potash, author and documentarian. We'll be talking about his newly released film, Drugs as a Weapon Against Us, the CIA's War on Musicians and Activists. And so make sure you check that out. It's going to be a great show. And in the second hour, we'll have Rhonda and Dwight Hull, paranormal researchers and psychic mediums. We'll be discussing their new book, Conversations with Spirits of the Southwest, a continued journey into the paranormal, speaking with the spirits of the Southwest. So make sure you check it out. It should be some great shows.
Yeah, we've had both of those guests on, I believe, or all three of them, I guess, at one point. So it'd be nice to revisit with them. Tonight, again, we're talking with Lisa Campion about energy vampires and more. Her website is lisacampion.com. It's like champion without the H. And her book is called The Art of Psychic Reiki. And I want to ask you about that, Lisa. What is psychic Reiki versus regular Reiki?
Well, what I noticed, because I'm a psychic and a Reiki teacher, what I noticed was that when people learned Reiki, if you have psychic ability or you're an empath, Reiki brings it out. So it really will open up your psychic gifts, especially Reiki level 2. So there's 3 levels with Reiki. People, when they go through level 1, they become more sensitive and empathic. When they go through level 2, if they have psychic capacity, it really opens. And after teaching Reiki for 20 years, what I noticed was that was scary for people. Like I had somebody come to me, one of my students, and say, I stopped doing Reiki because I was starting to see things, and it was freaking me out. I was seeing colors around people, and, I think somebody's dead mother came into a session, and it scared me so much I never did Reiki again. And I thought that was sad. Like, what she really needed was training. She needed training in both Reiki and also how to manage the psychic gifts, because I think they're a really great asset for a healer to have that stuff.
Let's jump to our phone lines again. This is Audrey in Kansas. Hi, Audrey. Welcome to the program.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, thanks for calling.
My question is it possible to be both at the same time?
Great question.
Both an empath and an energy vampire?
Yeah, and the reason is because I feel I'm an empath. I'm constantly worrying about people, taking in animals. I mean, I know I have a heart of gold, but then when I stepped on, walked over, of course, you meet your friends or family for lunch or something, and they go, how's it going? Well, then you tell them, and you feel like you're sapping their energy.
Yeah,
so it is possible
that might be true for you. So sometimes empaths who get really, really, really drained can actually sort of turn around and become, kind of an energy vampire themselves. So it's not uncommon. And I do think that if that's the case for you, it would be really working on making sure that you're filling yourself, that you have good boundaries, so don't let your tank get to empty, because it's when your tank is at empty when that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. So you have to kind of really make a decision and decide you're going to do some prayer, some meditation, some yoga. You're going to, do what you need to do to keep your tank full every day, so you don't get so depleted that you now become an energy vampire.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. Lisa, I want to talk about souls for a second, because a lot of the work you do with your clients is directly related to and directed to that person's soul. Tell us about the soul. What is it? Why is it important? And how do you communicate with it?
Sure. So I love to do soul work. And what I mean by soul is like the part of us that never changes. The part of, like, if your grandmother walked in the room and she said, you haven't changed since you were 2 years old, it's like that core essence part of us. And I mean, if you believe in past lives, it's like the part of us that stays the same, that is on this journey through our cycle of incarnation and all the lives that we have here on planet Earth, growing and evolving. And to me, that's the most interesting part of somebody, and that everybody's soul sort of has a story. It has a journey. It has a narrative. And when I do work with people, I'm looking at, what is the story of you? Where have you been? What are your past lives? What are you doing now? What's awesome about you? Where are you challenged? What problems do you have? What are your contracts with the other people in your life, which is totally a soul issue? What's your life purpose? What are you meant to do here? And where are you going in the future? This is all soul stuff, and that's what I really like to work with people.
When we talk about soul in that sense, I'm a little unsure if you mean it in the mystical sense, in almost the religious sense.
Well, I kind of. I mean, it's like if you have a body but you're more than a body, you have feelings but you're more than that. You have thoughts but you're more than that. What is that more than? That more than is your soul. It's this enduring part of you that is bigger than just the person that you are right now. Like who the part of you when you die and you cross over and you go to the other side, that part of you.
Yeah, and you mentioned, and you've mentioned it a couple times actually, past lives. How does that play a role in all of this?
For me as a psychic, it helps me understand people. So when I do readings for people, I often look at their past lives because I think they're quite interesting and they can tell us a lot about who we are, tell us where we've been, what might be stuck or what we're carrying in from our past lives that we're still working through in this lifetime. So sometimes I see issues that you just can't work through no matter how hard you try, and if we go back and do some past life work, we can sort of fix it or resolve it in a way that will change change your life in a better way this time around. So that's what I think. That's how I see things.
When a person is having some difficulties in their life, whether it's something that they've brought on themselves or it's coming from someone else due to a relationship or whatever it happens to be, at what point do you recommend that they seek this kind of assistance?
I would say, anytime when you feel like you're over your head, if you can't figure it out yourself, and I think we all need outside help. I do. I have people, that I work with when I can't see what's going on in my own life. We all need other perspectives. We all need a helping hand. We all need people to support us in different ways. So I think if you're going through a crisis, if you're in the middle of a transformation, things are changing in your life, or if you're really stuck and you can't figure out how to move forward, those are times when I think it's good to find somebody to work with. And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jen.
No,
all right, I was going to ask you, because we were talking about you doing this for about 20 years. Did you say you started with Reiki?
I started working as a psychic when I was 19.
As a psychic, okay.
And then, I was so young, and I decided that I really wanted to help people in a deeper way. Like, I would do readings for people, and they would cry, and I'd be like, oh, my God, now what do I do? So I wanted to help more, so I learned counseling and psychology and really, started combining psychic work with counseling. And then about 20 years ago, I wanted to address the energy field, and I was seeing things that were happening in people's body. I wanted a way to kind of get into the body, and that's when I learned Reiki, and also, which is a form of energy work, and I've studied other kinds of energy work. So when I work with people, I usually combine all of those things, some psychic work, some counseling, and some energy work, and it's pretty deep. It kind of will get to the root of what's going on with you and really create change or really shift things in your life in a pretty powerful way.
Getting back to the whole energy vampire aspect, I've heard some people have claimed that they're energy vampires, but they also claim that it's an addiction, that it becomes an addiction after they've done it for so long. Is this something that you've heard?
Yeah, I have heard that. And it is often likened to an addiction. So definitely the people that are sort of consciously choosing that lifestyle will often say that it's like an addiction. And I think that people who are unconscious energy vampires are a bit addicted to it too. So if you think about addictions, like we go to addictions when we feel empty on the inside, when we have like a hunger really inside of us or an emptiness inside of us, and what might be drugs or alcohol we go to, or food or shopping or, playing on the internet, all the things that we do now that sort of fill that empty space inside of us. And taking energy from other people is a really big way that we do that, all of us, and some people do it more than others. And I think it has that addictive quality that we can get into when we feel empty and hollow on the inside and we don't know what else to do.
Okay, and in your writings, you write that, the easiest time to actually get drained by a psychic vampire is actually during sex. So yeah. How can you protect yourself, or how do you see that before it happens.
Well, I think we have to be careful about who we choose as partners, and we're so vulnerable when we're naked, we're like really deeply sharing energy, we're kind of opening to each other. And
that's why I'm asking, because honestly, if you don't lose energy during that, I think you've done it wrong in the first place.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, so we have to be mindful about who our partners are. And I think probably everyone's had an experience where you feel really like used or drained or terrible afterwards. And we've also had experiences where we feel really like loved or, revered or awesome afterwards. And if you're, chronically in a situation where, you feel worse afterwards or like, why did I do that? Or does, that person doesn't care about me. I feel totally used. That's an opportunity that you probably got drained. You probably get somebody, took some energy from you when you were doing that.
So more of an emotional type drain?
Yeah, definitely an emotional drain, but also a physical drain, So, we just have to be very careful that we're choosing relationship, like, lovers and sexual partners that are loving, caring, supportive, or at least respectful, and not really allowing ourselves to be used that way.
Okay.
As we kind of wind down the conversation about energy vampires, and you may have touched on these during the course of this discussion, but what are your top 3 psychic self-defense techniques?
I think my first one is we talked with one of the callers about sort of using a bubble, So just it's simple, and it really is effective. So imagining that you have a bubble around you, that you have a screen, kind of like you're inside something that people can't get. I think, interestingly enough, putting your hands over your belly, putting your hands over your solar plexus or your arms, crossing your arms there if you feel like somebody's draining your energy, because that's a place where people take. So cover that up. If you feel like you're around somebody that's taking your energy, don't look them in the eye, because the eyes are a very strong connection point. So if you cover your belly and you don't look in their eye, you can, we can sometimes really eliminate that feeling and then be inside your bubble. And then I think use your intuition, follow your instinct. If you feel uneasy around that person or you feel uncomfortable around somebody, follow that, because a lot of times I'm sure, you've had that experience where your gut is telling you that that's not a good person for you to be around, and your mind kind of gets in the way and says, what are you talking about? That's a fine person. Everybody else likes that person. Why, what's the matter with you? And then we override our intuition, and that gets us in trouble.
Some people that just give you the creeps or this off feeling.
Pay attention to that.
Okay.
Because that's good information.
You have, you said you have another book that you're working on. What's that book about? I know you gave us an idea in the beginning of the discussion, but what's it about, and when is it expected to be published?
It's called The Energy Vampire Cure, and it's about this topic, really digging deep into everything that we've been talking about tonight, and I guess it'll be done when I'm done writing it. So I'll soon, I hope, by probably 2020, it'll be available.
We've given the website out. It's your name, lisacampion.com. Where else would you like people to go to get more information about you, your work, what you offer, and, of course, your book?
My book's available on Amazon or, Barnes & Noble, any of those places. And you can find me on Facebook, find me on Twitter, and Instagram, any of those social media outlets. And my website, is probably the best place to go.
Well, Lisa, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us. It's been a pleasure, and we definitely got to talk to you again at some point.
Oh, I hope so. It's been great fun for me, too.
Well, stay warm in this New England winter, and we'll talk to you again. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Okay, a little popcorn with some soy sauce, and sit down and watch something. What?
And some hardened arteries, and you're ready to go.
Soy sauce. Is soy sauce bad for you? I mean, it's got some sugar in it. I know that.
I know anytime we go for sushi, I request the low sodium soy sauce.
Yeah, the sodium is there. You're right. A lot of sodium. This whole energy vampire thing, I as I'm listening to Lisa talk about it, and I'm weighing, how it affected my life or it affects my life, I think I've determined that I am both a energy vampire and a victim. I think I am an energy vampire of myself.
Doesn't that just create a circle where you're constantly giving yourself energy and then
Taking
sucking it away.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a solar panel.
Yeah, it's a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
That's it, actually. Hey, whatever works for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you.
Thank you. You're the best.
So
Best.
So anyway,
can you believe we're into February already?
February 1st
For most of the country right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we're in 2019 and the year is already ticking away faster than last year did, which was fast enough.
Yeah. Well, I'd like it to get straight to like June.
Well, I mean, we could rush the part and maybe go into mid-April and then slow it down again. I'd be okay with that, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fine. As long as we can get through this cold, this brutal cold.
Yeah.
I don't mind 50, 60 degrees, but you know me, I love the summer.
Yep.
But definitely a big shout out to Lisa Campion for coming and hanging out with us tonight and talking about these energy vampires and all different types of them. And make sure you tune in. We've got some, tomorrow, of course, is a best of. And next week, we got some great shows coming up as well. We got Tim Schwartz on, author, and also International Man of Mystery on Monday. And we'll be discussing ghosts, poltergeists, elementals, Geff, the talking mongoose that's baffled researchers for years.
I have no idea.
And so much more. And then Tuesday, we're going to be talking with John Potash, author and documentarian. We'll be talking about his newly released film, Drugs as Weapons Against Us, the CIA War on Musicians and Activists. So, and that's based on the book, Drugs as Weapons Against Us, the CIA's murderous targeting of SDS, Panthers, Hendrix, Lennon, Cobain, Tupac, and other leftists. So, a lot of different things to check out there. If you haven't yet, head over to facebook.com/Beyond Reality Radio. Like that Facebook page for us. Then head to beyondrealityradio.com. Find all the stations we air on across the country. Download the free smartphone apps, which allow you to listen live, catch past shows, join the online chat, and more. Or any night we're live, just listen right from the website by clicking the Listen Live tab. And if you download the show from iTunes, well, make sure you subscribe to it. It makes it easy. But when you do that, take 2 seconds to just rate it for us. It helps push it forward, makes it easier to find, and that's what it's all about.
Beyond Reality Paranormal is hosted by J.V. Johnson and produced by Orion Palmer and Slick Eddie Edwards. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please consider supporting the program either through your podcast platform, click on the link in the description, or on Patreon at Joha Productions. If you'd like to be a guest on Beyond Reality Paranormal or you have a recommendation for a guest, contact our producer, Slick Eddie Edwards. Eddie is spelled with a Y at slickeddieedwards@gmail.com.